All right, it's time to call the Farragut Beer Board for May 23rd, 2019 to order. First item of business is approval of minutes. Has the group had a chance to review the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I abstain, I was not here. Next item, beer permit request. An approval of Class 1 on-premise beer permit for the Shrimp Dock located at 11124 Kingston Pike.
Yes, sir. All the applications and information are in order, and the motion is to approve the Class 1 on-premise beer permit for Shrimp Dock at 11124 Kingston Pike.
Phil, you want to step up to the podium and give us your name and home address, please?
Phil Dangle, 725 Andover Boulevard, Knoxville, 37934. Owner of the Shrimp Dock.
So we understand you had a beer permit at one time.
We had a beer permit before. We let it lapse. We were not selling, we just weren't selling much. And now the people that work there feel that times have changed and beer has become something that we need to put in. And we're getting a lot of requests. We have it in the other two locations. We sell pretty well.
Is it going to be beer only, or are you going with any
Beer only.
no wine or
Bottle only.
bottle?
Bottle beer only.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
None. Sir.
None.
All right. Do I have we should have had a motion.
Oh, yeah, we should have done that. We're slacking. I'm going to move to approve on-premise beer permit for the Shrimp Dock, 11124 Kingston Pike.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations. Phil,
I have a dumb question. Does that mean I can sell beer tomorrow?
Your permit ready in the morning. So yes.
Okay, thanks.
I've got something for you here, too.
Huh?
Packet. I've got a packet here for you, if you
Great.
come by. This is some information that may help your staff, making sure.
have to send one of them to, well, in the other two stores, we have to send someone to the class.
Right. Right. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
Good
Good to
luck.
see you. You need to drop by more often. You need to drop by more often.
All right. Next item on the agenda is approval of a Class 6 special occasion beer permit for the Farragut Business Alliance Red, White, and Blues Festival event.
Yes, sir. They're having the Red, White, and Blues Festival again at West End Avenue. And the Farragut Business Alliance is a nonprofit organization, is requesting the permit for July 12th and 13th of 2019. They're also requesting the $100 application fee to be waived as the town is a event sponsor of the event. So the motion is to waive the $100 application fee and approve the special occasion beer permit for the Red, White, and Blues Jam at West End for July 12th and 13th of 2019.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Representative Steve, you want to come up and give us your name and home address, please?
Steve Krimpaski, 10609 Chevy Drive, Knoxville, 37922. And I want to do an amendment to our application. The name of the event has changed to Music Fest at West End. The change was due to the movement back away from the 4th of July holiday, and also noting that we're going to feature both country and blues music on the different days. And so to give it a chance to grow in the future to all kinds of music, Music Fest is the new name of the event, and it won't affect the beer flow, though, however. So,
Do we need to make that change then in the motion? Is that correct? So we need to amend the motion?
Okay, amend the motion, move to waive the $100 application fee and approve the special occasion beer permit for the Music Fest at West End, July 12th through 13th, 2019.
Do I have a second?
second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now we need to move on the original motion. Are we okay? We're good. Any other questions for Steve?
None.
I'm excited. This is a nice expansion of the idea, and I knew it was a nice event last year, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of it this year.
Well, we're all excited, and I know that the One Life Church over there is excited about it too. So they're in the application. That's the closest church to that event, but they're all about it. So
Okay, well, that's good.
Pray for good weather. Thank you,
Glad to
Steve.
say that.
All right, any other business for the beer board? All right, we are now adjourned.
We got 7:02. Time is approximately 7 p.m., and I'll call to order the May 23rd, 2019 Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting. Okay, we'll first have a prayer tonight.
My name is John Mark Harrison, pastor at First Baptist Concord. Thank you for letting me voice our prayer. Let's pray together. Father, we are so thankful for this opportunity just to pause and celebrate the life that you give in each and every one of us. Thank you for these and their leadership in our town. God, we do pray, James 1:5, that God, we'd ask you for wisdom and you'd give generously as your word tells us you will. God, we pray Psalm 25, that you would teach us your paths and that you would guide us in your truth. And Father, in a day there are so many different agendas, we pray that this group would be able to hear from you, and that God, they'd fear you more than man, and that God, they would lead according to your principles and your truth that we understand from your word. So Father, we pray that you would be in this room tonight as decisions are made, and we would pursue your wisdom. In Jesus' name, amen. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, agenda, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
None? If not, with the quorum, I'll need a motion to approve this meeting's posted agenda.
Move to approve.
Second it?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Okay, the motion to adopt May 23rd, 2019 Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman posted agenda has been approved. Okay, tonight on the mayor's report, tonight we'll have two presentations and an announcement. I'll start out with the announcement. The Board of Mayor and Alderman welcomes and invites Farragut citizens to participate in all public posted meetings. We will always set aside time for citizens forum after we finish town business. If you plan to participate during a citizens forum or during an agenda item discussion, we ask that you pick up an agenda at the door when you enter and read the Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting public comment protocol printed on the back of the agenda. If you can agree to the comment protocol, then please fill out the blue slip with your name and turn it in to our staff. The comment protocol will be followed by all speakers during our meetings. Our first presentation tonight will be by Dan Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Dan Johnson with the Rural Metro Fire Department, also the Fire Marshal for the town of Farragut. Just wanted to point out, as some of you may have noticed, that there is a residential fire sprinkler display out in the rotunda. We appreciate the town allowing us to put it out there. It's an educational item. This week is designated as Home Fire Sprinkler Week. That's the week of May 19th through the 25th. That's with the National Fire Protection Association in conjunction with the Home Fire Sprinkler Coalition. We want to take this opportunity to provide some information to the residents on the truths and myths of fire sprinkler systems in the home. I'm proud to say that the display out in the rotunda was actually built by Tom Chrisman, who is a fire protection engineer here in town, along with Wayne Wagner, who now works with me on some items here at the town, and he is the former fire marshal for Knox County. It was a great opportunity. It's a great tool. We appreciate the support of the Home Fire Sprinkler Coalition. Additionally, we do have a subdivision in town that is currently being built with residential sprinklers, and we're hoping that this is a positive move and a learning opportunity for everyone from developers, builders, and the residents. So I handed out a little fact sheet. If anybody has any particular questions, you don't have to ask me now. I am available, and my information's on the town's website. Do you have any particular questions right now, or?
Just for the record, please state the subdivision that's going to be sprinkled.
That's in Easton Park.
Thank you.
Okay.
A bit about the setup of a residential sprinkler system in a house.
Okay. So one of the key components is that during the development process, we ensure that the tap on the water line for the water meter is sufficient size. Most of the lines in the town being currently developed are of sufficient size. It's just we need to make sure that that line coming into the house is either an inch for traditional piping or an inch and a quarter for the PEX, the flexible piping. From there, it's routed in through your meter, much like it's shown out there, comes into the house, basically splits off. One line goes to your residential fire sprinkler system, and the other line goes to the rest of the domestic water. The flows developed by this type of system are not of a sufficient size to create problems based on FUD's current system and their demand. In areas that those problems do develop, there are also tank and pump systems which are not overly expensive, like in an industrial situation. The idea of a residential fire sprinkler system is to provide a life safety protection for the residents of the home, additional time to escape, and the benefit is to generally keep the fire contained to a small area. Unlike in a commercial building where it's built or designed, to minimize property loss, the residential system is not designed for that, is mainly designed. Most of the time it does create less property damage because the fire is kept small. Did I sufficiently answer your question? All right. If you don't have any other questions, I appreciate it, and thank you for your time. Oh, one other item. May is Building Safety Month. As proclamation has come out by the governor, and traditionally May by the International Code Council is designated Building Safety Month. So we have been participating in that to the extent we can with all the interesting things such as code adoption and new permitting software going online. So thank you. Appreciate your time. Have a good evening.
Thanks a lot, Dan. Okay, next will be Julie Blaylock from the Farragut West Knox Chamber.
Good evening. I'm Julie Blaylock. I'm the president and CEO of the Farragut West Knox Chamber of Commerce, located in Farragut. My address is 809 Highland Drive, 37912. I wanted to come here tonight because it's been a minute since I've had a chance to give you an update. And I know we have some new faces on the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, so it's important for the Chamber to make sure that we're communicating and developing the relationship between us, because it's one that's important to us. In the past, when we've given reports either on an annual or a biannual basis, we've usually sent the board a very extensive laundry list of every little thing we've done. I changed the format this time for the benefit of our eyes. I think Louise remembers we used, what was it, an 8.5 font? But I'm always happy to give you more details or information about what we're up to, what some of our metrics and statistics have been for the last year. So hopefully this fiscal year in review, though it's not completed for us yet, is pretty clear. I like for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to know how we're serving the town of Farragut and the businesses within it, as well as our other businesses. Currently, as of today, actually, our membership sits at about 632 businesses. Of those, you can see by the little Farragut icon that 218 are in town of Farragut. So about a third of our membership are Farragut businesses. And though that's not the majority, it is a significant portion. If you're curious, the breakdown of the rest of us is approximately 56%, which are in Knox County / Knoxville, and then the rest fall 3.9% in Loudoun County, about 2% in Anderson, 1% in Blount, and then less than 1% in Sevier. So our spread is wide. But we try our best to serve our businesses the way they need to. We specialize, for the newer Board of Mayor and Aldermen, we specialize in networking opportunities. So a question I get asked by potential business members and existing members is, well, how are you different from all the other chambers in our area? Because we have several. One thing that we excel in, I think, is serving small business and providing maximum opportunities for small businesses to engage with us and engage with each other, while we at the same time keep our membership investments accessible to them. So you can see, and we ran these metrics fairly recently, and it's always surprising to us when we see how it falls out. Small business, by definition, if you ask the United States Chamber of Commerce, is 100 employees or less. For us, that's quite different. So 66% of our businesses have 15 staff or less. And then if you break down further, as you can see, 60% have 10 or less, 42% have 5 or less. So when we say we serve small business, we mean it. A couple other things I'll mention, and then I want to open it up to you for questions if you have them. We did a strategic planning session with our board of directors in the fall of 2018. It was something we hadn't really done in a while. So we had a lot of really good discussion and a lot of good goal planning. And we've already started working on those goals. It's about a 3-year plan, so 2022 is when we'll see it culminate, hopefully. But we wanted to target 3 areas. So one was membership services, another was economic development, and the third was community. So to that end, some things that we've done is we've started a young professionals networking and group. We had our first event May 1st at the Casual Pint Farragut. We went into it with really no expectations because we'd never done that before. But we were really surprised. 2 of our board members actually led it. Which means that myself and my staff actually didn't have to do a whole lot, which was amazing. But we had an attendance of about 40 to 45 young professionals, and I know that it was successful because by the time I left the room, I felt really old. Notably, we had a 17-year-old attendee. He was not drinking. He was drinking orange soda, but he's a Central High School student. His sister works at First Tennessee, and he is running his own brand imaging business off of his cell phone, which means he's building brands for influencers on Instagram and other social media platforms. He doesn't have a website. He doesn't have business cards. Yeah. So if that doesn't give you kind of a snapshot of where our young professionals are headed, I really don't know what else does. But we're trying to do a much better job as a chamber now that we know our networking works and it kind of takes care of itself, meaning we've got more than half of 2020 booked solid. So we don't have to worry about having holes in the calendar, but we need to do a better job of targeting different industries and different demographics. So we're working on that. A couple of other things, we're trying to really focus more on providing our businesses better benefits, more value-added advertising, and doing that without, raising the cost of their membership. We took a survey at the end of 2018, so we surveyed our entire membership. We had about a 1/6 response rate, which is pretty good for an online survey. And we asked them all kinds of questions about what do you want your membership to look like? What's important to you? And of course, price. Because for small businesses, $200, which is that 6 to 10 person level membership, is a lot of money. And by and large, they said, we really like how things are now where you include a whole lot of services for that $200. Please do not raise your rates. So we're trying to honor that as best we can. To that end, obviously, one of our goals was to seek sources of revenue. So if you read the Farragut Press, and I'm sure you did, you probably saw that we were extremely grateful to receive first-time support from Knox County in the form of a $50,000 appropriation. That's the first time in the history of our chamber, which is 32 years long, that gesture has ever occurred, which is huge to us. So while my board, of course, has many meetings to have yet on exactly how to utilize that funding to the greatest impact, certainly we're going to try to use it so that we can provide better services and not raise costs. One last thing, I had a great meeting with Trevor recently. I see you sitting there in the back. So one thing that came out of our strategic planning, we had Mayor Williams there, and we also had Mayor Glenn Jacobs, and my board members wanted to know, what could we be doing as a chamber just to do a better job? And the idea of a business toolkit, something to just make starting a business easier, wherever it's going to be, was a big thing that came up. And the board unanimously agreed that that was something that they wanted us to work on. We provide a lot of services, bits and pieces, but we don't really yet have a package that I would call pleasantly cohesive. So Trevor and I have had a first meeting, and I'm sure we're going to have many more, to try to figure out how the chamber can be a part of making it easier to get started as a business, and specifically as a business in Farragut. Because even though our membership reach has grown, we don't forget the fact that it was the town of Farragut that got us going. So at this point, I think I've talked enough. I'd love to hear any questions if you have them.
Julie, I have some questions. The business toolkit, I know, obviously, that's going to be specific to where you are, as Knox County is going to have their own different toolkit.
Yeah.
Do you have a connection with someone in Knox County where you can start working on a toolkit for them as well?
We haven't yet developed that specific connection. We certainly have relayed to Knox County that because our membership spread crosses two borders, and the requirements are different. Some are similar, but several are different. Yeah. Because we're based in Farragut, we want to make sure we have something for town of Farragut, and then something else for Knox County. So we're working on that.
Well, and I've said this to you before, we don't live in a vacuum, and as small business owners, we don't live in a vacuum.
No.
So it's not, just because I'm a Farragut business, I don't expect everything to, that we are in Farragut. We rely on a relationship with Lenore City and Loudoun County businesses and Hardin Valley, and quite frankly, I look at it as Hardin Valley's getting some different franchises, which I would love to say, hey, you can come on over here too. We're far enough away that we could. So I'm looking at those opportunities and establishing those relationships, and I would love for us to be reaching out to Hardin Valley. They are a part of our community.
Yeah.
So yes, I would love it if we could identify that, and I would also love to see if this was not a one-time thing, that we saw some interest from Knox County as far as funding. Mm-hmm. So we need to make good on that for you all, and make sure that we're strengthening this area.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very supportive of what your efforts are. That's
thank
all,
you.
I guess what I'm trying to say.
I appreciate that. When we do get business requests, and they happen with some frequency, of people that are getting started, we have to make an assessment of where they are in their business planning first and foremost. So sometimes people that come to us are really way too early to even look at a site location. Those are people that really need to have a business plan. They don't have their capital yet, and so those people we tend to send straight to the SBDC, our connection there, because that's really where they need to start. But those that are a little farther along and kind of have an idea of what they're doing, or at least seem to, I have passed those off to David and to Trevor, and they've been wonderful in, kind of taking them by the hand, and guiding them through that process of figuring out what they want to do and where they could possibly locate in Farragut. We get, we get mislabeled as a commercial realtor. People think that we know exactly where every open space is in Farragut and what the per square footage rent is. So, it's important for us to have the relationship with the town as well as your contacts, so that we just want to be a convener of resources, and we want to smooth the path so that if Farragut is where they want to be, there's no question why they can't do that.
Appreciate that.
So Julie, what kind of services would the members want in addition to what is already being provided to them? You mentioned earlier about
Yeah.
they want more services. Can you give me an idea?
Yeah. One thing that they did talk about is, they want marketing and advertising opportunities. Advertising, if you haven't priced it lately, is expensive. Chambers of commerce, as well as entities like, Shop Farragut, through our partnerships, we can make advertising more affordable for them. So that's one of our goals, is to provide them with that. They definitely want more dollars across their doorstep. So they want, to get to more people, but they also want to be able to see that return. They want direct referrals. One of the challenges that we have in this modern digital age is that our information is being bought and sold every single day. It's happening, every time we sign up for a newsletter or a coupon. One of my challenges is, when I get people coming in the door, I refer all my businesses of a certain type, but to capture their information, people are growing increasingly reticent about providing that information when they're directly asked for it, as we legally have to. So we're trying to work on ways that we can fix the referral block a little bit better, so that we can give the businesses, the potential customers and clients, and also not make the potential customers and clients feel like we're selling their information for, bad uses. So.
I think one of the other things that is underutilized is the small business development corporation, whatever that's called.
Absolutely.
Because people don't realize it's there, and usually they think it's there just for you to start up, but it's there throughout the life of your business to go back and reassess. And of course, there's the Knox Chamber and the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center. So there's a lot of things going on that people aren't necessarily aware are there, and so plugging them in is sometimes the hardest thing.
Yeah.
To understanding where their opportunities are.
Yeah, we spend a good deal of our time, much like you all do, saying the same thing over and over, in a lot of different ways and in a lot of different platforms, and just trying to let people know everything that is available to them opportunity-wise.
Also, Julie, you mentioned in the strategic planning for your board, you mentioned membership services, which you touched on, economic development, and I think building community. I was curious if you can give me an idea about economic development ideas the board's kicking around.
So we had a bulleted list, and we understood as a board that to be effective, there was probably only one, maybe two things under each category that we could actually accomplish while continuing to keep the train rolling. So economic development, specific things we wanted to do is our website. We overhauled it in 2017. It was badly needed at that time, and it was well received, but it could be a lot better still. Most people say that, when they go to a website, if they have to click more than 3 times to get the info they want, they're gone. And that goes for any website. One of my board members said that our website is great. People can find our events, but it's kind of like a book. All the information is there, but the pages are a little bit mixed up in some spots. So we want to develop a 2-pronged approach for the website where, we have a business end. So are you a business, or are you a visitor or resident? And split it so that services and information goes in both directions. They can easily find what they want. And that includes, linking to Visit Farragut, linking to Shop Farragut, so that we can get added exposure and added clicks there as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Julie, thank you.
Thank you.
Julie.
I really do appreciate your hard work, and I will tell you, I love Beth Ann. She's doing a bang-up job. She's a wonderful, wonderful addition to your board. If you guys have not met, Beth Ann Carter she works with Michael Brady.
MBI companies,
MBI.
yes.
And she is, we get along very well, so you can imagine she's probably wired pretty much how I am, so we enjoy each other's company.
Well, I will pass that along. I am only as good as the people that are around me.
Right, and you've got great staff, too.
Yes, we absolutely do.
Great.
We do. Thank you.
So thank you for your efforts.
Okay, at this time, I'll now yield the floor to the Vice Mayor for her part of the report on the Children's Defense Fund Conference.
We have the Children's Defense Fund coming in. I'm going to read from their, what do you call this? Their press release. That's what it's called. Children's Defense Fund is a 510c3 nonprofit child advocacy organization that worked relentlessly for 40 years to ensure a level playing field for all children. We have the CDF Freedom School program is a 6-week summer literacy and cultural enrichment program. And the CDF Freedom Schools is hosting their annual national training conference at Roane State Community College. The guests are staying in the hotels in Cedar Bluff, Oak Ridge, and Farragut area. An estimated 1,500 CDF Freedom School educators and advocates will be trained at this national training. The diverse and dynamic group hails from 28 states and 88 cities and is excited about the opportunity to serve their communities as change agents. These 1,500 mostly college students begin arriving May 27th. Most of them are arriving May 30th and will be staying till June 4th. So you'll be seeing them in our restaurants and a lot of young kids in our restaurants, in our stores, and we're hoping that everybody is opening and welcoming to them. This was a big get for our chamber and our visitors board, Karen Tyndall. They've been working very hard to coordinate with Children's Defense Fund so that they have a great experience, and I think that I think it'll be such a success, and we're hoping that they'll keep on coming back year after year. I really wanted to thank Julie's efforts and Karen Tyndall's efforts in specific. It's going to be an exciting time to see these young kids run around our town, and maybe they'll give us some good ideas about what we need to do.
Did I dream this, or did I hear they were going to be wearing some kind of badge or something to identify them? I thought,
I don't know.
okay.
Not to be out of turn, sorry, but before I left the office today at 5:30, they finally are sending me a schedule. So they have a reading exercise every morning with the students before they go into class. They call it Harambe, which is let's all get together, and they have someone read a children's book 5 to 10 minutes to basically model reading. They would very much like Mayor Williams or a member of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to come one of the mornings they're here and do that for them. I know it's short notice, I apologize.
You just send us the information.
I'll do it.
One of us will figure it out. So I just wanted to prepare everyone. That's what's going on, and it's an exciting time in our town. I know we're young on this tourism visitor stuff. This was a really great fit for exactly what we're looking for. We have the assets for them to be here with our parks and all the things that are going on. So we're all really excited and hope that they have a great experience and continue to do this. It's a great shot in the arm for our hotels as well. So, and moving on to the next thing I wanted to talk about was I got a chance to attend the graduation ceremony for the class of 2019 of Farragut High School on Saturday night. And Principal Seavey got up, and he must have talked for a good 10 or 15 minutes just listing their accomplishments. So I asked him to send it to me. I'm not going to call them all out. I'll talk about the academic ones, but there's a lot going on in our community. First off, they completed over 25,000 hours of community service. The class of 2019 includes 13 National Merit finalists, 13 National Merit semifinalists, 15 National Merit commended scholars, 5 students with perfect ACT scores, 8 U.S. Presidential Scholar nominees, and 14 Eagle Scouts. In 2018-19, Farragut High School had 109 AP scholars, 42 AP scholars with honors, 88 AP scholars with distinction, and 27 national AP scholars. Our high school was recognized as one of the top 15 high schools in the state of Tennessee by U.S. News and World Report. Best American High Schools, and last week Farragut High School received STEM school designation, one of only 6 high schools in the state with such a designation. There were a multitude of honors for various academics, clubs, band, orchestra, and sports, and too many to list here. Amazing things are happening in our high school, and as a result, our high school and our community continue to attract families who care about providing a high-caliber high school education for their children. This is something that we need to constantly remind ourselves. This is an asset, and Mr. Seavey is working very hard for our school to continue to demonstrate the excellence that's coming out of it. So I was just really excited to hear what's going on, and I know there's more of that to come. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Next will be approval of minutes. Are there any changes to the posted April 25th, 2019 minutes? None? Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? If so, do I have a motion to approve the said minutes?
So moved.
A second.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Abstain. I was absent.
Motion to approve the posted minutes as passed will be recorded as the official minutes of the April 25th, 2019 Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting. Okay, tonight we have 4 business items on the agenda that will be presented, and start off with approval of the contract 2020-01, annual on-call road maintenance.
Yes, I'd like to point out first, these next 4 items are annual on-call maintenance contracts. These contracts cover our road maintenance, pavement markings, guardrail, and signal maintenance over the next fiscal year. Since they are maintenance contracts, we don't know how much we're going to spend next year on road maintenance, for instance. So you won't see, in the bid tabulations, you will not see a total bid amount compare. Now, each year when we put these contracts together, we include line items that we anticipate we'll probably need, we typically need in a given year for each of the contracts. We put that out for bids. Contractors, these are very specialized contractors, they will bid on line items. We'll compare the line items. Some will be higher than others, some will be a little lower than others. But based on what we think we will likely have over the next year, as well as the responsiveness of the contractors we've used in the past, staff will make a recommendation. So I hope that's clear enough. All that being said, the first item is approval of bids for contract 2020-01, annual on-call road maintenance. We received 2 bids from contractors on May 10th. That was Pavement Restorations Incorporated, otherwise known as PRI, and J.G. Mullins Construction Company Incorporated. Based upon the unit prices in their proposals, staff recommends award of this contract to Pavement Restorations Incorporated.
I'm going to move for approval of proposal and award of contract 2020-01 to Pavement Restorations Incorporated.
I'll second it.
Okay. Let's see here. Discussion?
Darrell, can I ask you, because I know, I understand what you just said, we have a total budget of $75,000. Do we keep an annual to see how we're doing from year to year? Okay, this year we spent this much, this year we spent that much. Do we ever pay attention?
We have that information if you'd
Okay.
like to see it.
I'm just curious, is that where this number comes from?
Well, the 75,000, we've been bumping against our budget. David, you can tell me, I think we've been budgeting about $60,000 the last few years, and we've been bumping against that, seems like every year.
Okay.
So in your budgets, it's under the 121, the street aid,
Okay.
and it's the street maintenance, and that'll have the actuals for 2017 and 2018,
Okay.
and then what we've estimated for this year.
Oh, okay, I see. Thank you.
So it varies.
I appreciate that.
Okay, anyone else? None? Okay, I have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Okay, let the record show contract 2020-01 has been approved. Okay, next will be approval of bids for contract 2020-02, annual on-call pavement marking.
Yes, we received only one bid on May 10th for this contract from Volunteer Highway Supply. Volunteer has been our contractor for the last several years. If you've looked at the tabulation that was provided in your packet, their line item prices have really not increased at all over last year. I think they're all exactly the same. I see one that is slightly higher, but that's about it. Staff recommends award of contract 2020-02 to Volunteer Highway Supply Company.
I'm going to move for approval of bids and award of contract 2020-02 to Volunteer Highway Supply Company.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
I have none.
None. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Let the record show the contract 2020-02 has been approved. Okay, next will be approval of bids for contract 2020-03, annual on-call guardrail maintenance.
We received only one bid on May 10th from Roadway Solutions LLC. We've used them in the past. We've always enjoyed a good working relationship. We've included a tabulation of their unit prices with a comparison to last year's unit prices. In that, some are a little higher, some are a little lower. We feel like overall the increase, any increases will be minor. So staff recommends approval of bids and award of contract 2020-03 to Roadway Solutions LLC.
For approval of bids and award of contract 2020-03 to Roadway Solutions LLC.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Okay, none. I have a motion with a second. All in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Okay, next will be excuse me, let the record show contract 2020-03 has been approved. Next will be approval of bids for contract 2020-04, annual on-call signal maintenance.
We received two bid proposals on May 10th, two separate companies. That was Progression Electric LLC and Stansel Electric Company Incorporated. I included a tabulation in your packets. If you've looked at that closely, you'll see that Stansel Electric's unit prices, they appear to be a little lower than Progression Electric's or the same as Progression Electric's. However, we've used Progression Electric for several years here. I don't remember, it's probably been 12, 14 years. We feel very comfortable with Progression Electric. Their unit prices really are about the same, I believe, as last year's unit prices. That was included as well in this tabulation. The fact is, they are very familiar with all of our signals. They know what we have. They know where the problems are. I feel like when you're looking at hourly rates, you may be paying a smaller hourly rate, but if it takes more hours to fix something, overall you're going to see a problem with that. So all that being said, staff recommends award of contract 2020-04 to Progression Electric LLC.
I'm going to move for approval of bids and award of contract 2020-04 to Progression Electric LLC.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
I've got
Just
a question.
a
Oh,
question.
excuse me, discussion.
Did you
Go
want
ahead.
to? Okay. We are going to go through this CMAC and change our signals. Is this going to change this? I mean, no, that we're out on, that's still a big project we're waiting to do, right?
That is one that is out there. It's going to take, it's probably going to start in the fall
Okay.
and probably take a good year to do it.
Okay.
It'll be over the next couple of fiscal years to
So
complete.
will we continue to do a contract like this, a signal maintenance contract like this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And it'll be different, though, I assume.
Hopefully, it'll be cheaper. We'll have all new components
Yeah.
in our cabinets.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to bring this up now. I was going to bring it up later, but in the budget, the signal system upgrade, the CMAC, is listed under the CIP as $6,710,000. And the funding on the next page is $6,610,000. And recently, I received a update from Trevor of the CIP updates that he gives us each month, and said that there was additional funding of $4 million. So I'm a little confused. The three different numbers here. Was it originally 10 million and it's now 6 million, or is that 4 million coming out of the 6
The
million?
number in the budget is the correct number, because we got those numbers kind of last minute, so we went ahead and added them to this document. So there is an additional 4 million, but it is, in the budget is the correct numbers.
We had an initial, and then the 4 million was addition, so
Yeah.
that's your total.
We originally had around 2.4 million, I believe, 2.5 million in dollars for CMAQ, and then we had another round of funding that came through to add to that project. So that makes the total project now $6.7 million. Part of that we have to pay ourselves for ADA compliant items, and so that's the only part that we have to, the town has to pay for. The state's paying for the rest.
Okay, so we pay it, we get reimbursed at some point in time. That's why it's in here as a line item.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Oh, by the way, the $45,000, is that in this maintenance fee that we're talking about? I don't see it listed anywhere.
Engineering, if you look in his engineering
It's under the
department.
general fund.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, any more discussion? I have a motion with a second. All in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Okay, let the record show the contract 2020-04 has been approved. Okay, next we have ordinance. We have one ordinance tonight to review, and it will be on first reading. Ordinance 19-22, ordinance to establish the fiscal year 2020 budget for the general fund, State Street Aid Fund, Capital Investment Fund, ADA Fund, Equipment Replacement Fund, Insurance Fund budgets for Town of Farragut, Tennessee for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020.
You hear me talk about this every year, but the approval of the budget is one of the most important things that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen in the Town of Farragut do each and every year, because it's required by state law to have a balanced budget, and we do that each and every year. Our budget process, we set out a funding plan that prioritizes what the town wants to get accomplished throughout the next year. One of the things that we do right off the bat is get with our department heads and have a planning retreat. And then after we have prioritized things within our departments, we obviously get with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and let y'all prioritize everything that you feel is important to get accomplished in the next fiscal year. And then we have a series of workshops throughout January through the end of April that then sets in place all the different budgets and all the different departments that we have and make sure that our money is going where we need it to go. One of the things that helps us to make sure that we're following our path is to follow our vision for the town. We've talked a lot about our vision and our mission and our critical success factors, but this vision helps us look long-term at what we're trying to get accomplished as a town. And then when we look at our mission and values, we're talking about appealing and engaging community with our dedicated team of individuals that are dedicated to integrity, innovation, and friendly service. Now, all of that comes back to what are our goals, or what we call critical success factors. And these all center around basically things that we operate and do on a regular basis here at the town, whether it be providing parks, maintaining our infrastructure, making sure that we're enhancing our financial position, looking at our committed workforce, and trying to promote even more retail and office to our community. So all of these things we look at, then we put into our budget, and we budget conservatively each year because we want to project revenues are typically be less than what we'll actually bring in, and then we budget expenditures higher than we will actually probably spend. And what happens is this gap allows us to add to our fund balance each and every year. So that way, if we have needed capital projects, we can pay for those in cash, which we've been able to do. In the event of a recession, the town would be well positioned to be able to weather that storm in case our revenues come in lower than anticipated. So let's start off with revenues tonight and go through what our revenue projections are for FY20. Next year, we're projecting a 4% increase in revenues from budgeted FY19, so going from $10.9 million to $11.35 million. There are many revenues that all go into that, and so the first one and the most impactful for the town is the local option sales tax. You can see a chart here that over the years that has slowly increased. The big thick blue line on here is actually FY19, the one we're in currently. But we're projecting this to be a 3% increase for next year. Based off of our revenue projections we're seeing right now, we feel pretty good about our estimated end-of-year number. And again, this is the one that makes up the largest percentage of our annual revenues each and every year, and also the one that would have the greatest fluctuation based on the economy and where we're at locally. We also have our state shared taxes, state sales tax, if you will. To the general fund, so the fund we're talking about right now, we get around $103.30 per person in the town, and that comes out to 22,600 population. Along with that, we also get some monies for state street aid, and that's the $38.50 that you see there. Over this past year, then the state is basically it's up 2.3% over fiscal year 19. In the general fund and in the state street aid fund, which is this is the last year that the state is increasing the gas tax by 1 cent starting July 1st. That funding is up 6.9%. We also have the hall income tax. I think everyone's well aware of the hall. It's the only income tax in the state of Tennessee, and it will be going away in the next 3 years. We have slowly started seeing that decline since FY17. This year, we're projecting $400,000 for that account, and we will have to wait and see what the tax returns look like. And it's based off of your income of mutual funds, of investment stocks, things like that. So, again, by I think the year 2022 budget, this will be gone from our budgeted revenues. Another income stream that the town has are wholesale liquor, beer, and mixed drink taxes. Mixed drink has been fairly steady over the last few years. A couple of taxes, though, that we have seen slowly decline are the liquor tax, wholesale liquor, and beer. The liquor, certainly there's been a lot of law changes at the state level over the last few years that has allowed both wine and grocery stores to occur so that people have more options than they had before. We've seen 3 liquor stores in town close in that time frame. We've also seen a major competitor just outside of our borders that has certainly taken some of that revenue away from our local shops. So that's one issue that we see that starting to level off, but certainly something we want to watch. Another one is that the beer taxes that we receive, the state changed the way that they allocate beer taxes. It used to be done by a price, it used to be based on the price, now it's based on the volume. And so because of that, that tax also has not gotten any higher, it's actually dwindling some based on that. So a couple things there that really are out of our control, but we're certainly monitoring those to see what could be done to help enhance those in the future.
Drink more beer.
That would help.
Drink more beer.
Archie, you get that too? Okay.
Intergovernmental tax, intergovernmental funds. These are also a very steady revenue stream. The biggest portions of these come from the cable TV franchise taxes and also TVA gross receipts. Again, we're projecting just a slight decrease, but I have a feeling you'll still see that typical slight increase over the next few years in that funding. But again, intergovernmental are things that we do get from other sources based on what they have activity-wise in the town of Farragut. Our building permit and license revenue, this is one that really has a lot to do with the economy and how much development is going on in town. Certainly commercial development, if that's a heavy year, we'd tend to see more in revenues from that. So next year, we're proposing around $367,000 in revenue for this. Again, not knowing when the next recession may hit. We want to be conservative definitely in this regard, because when that does happen, this will be the first place you'll see revenues drop is the building department. So overall, if you look at our revenue streams and our revenue sources, 56% of our revenue comes from the local sales tax, with the next biggest chunk coming from the state sales tax. The hall tax used to be around 10% of our budget, and you can see that it's quickly dwindling down to around 3% next year. So that'll just be more of a reliance then on the sales tax and other revenue streams that we have versus not having the hall tax anymore. Total revenues again are right at $11.3 million proposed for FY20. So our next big area is obviously our expenditures in the general fund, and what do we use and operate with our money. The next year's expenditures are estimated to be up 4.6% to $7,336,687. You can see all the departments there in front of you. There are some slight increases in some and a couple of decreases in others. Overall, the largest department change that we are having next year is that we are adding a community center. And with that community center, takes additional and different revenues. We've got some reoccurring cost of around $150,000 per year that we estimate for operating the community center along with personnel. We have some shared costs that we have an agreement with Knox County on that will help offset some of our ongoing related costs there. But we also have some upfront capital costs that are in our CIP part of our budget. Overall, this year, we've got around $392,000 projected in Town of Farragut expenditures. But ongoing, after this first year, we anticipate that to be around $150,000 a year. One of the biggest components to our expenditures and because we are a service industry, is personnel. It takes personnel to provide services to the community. Right now, we have projected 54 full-time equivalent positions in next year's budget. We have about 63% of our budget is personnel cost and 37% is operating. Next year, we propose to have a 4% merit package for personnel. We do anticipate changing a part-time position in media, part-time media assistant to a full-time position. Also, we'll need about 1.5 FTEs for custodians for the community center for the hours that we're going to be open at the community center. And we also have some additional park assistants and rec assistants related to the community center operations. We also have increased health insurance benefits of around 6% estimated for employees for next year as well. So all of that goes into the $4.6 million cost that you see proposed for FY 2020. If you look at a 10-year history of our revenues and our expenditures, you can see that the revenues in green have definitely far exceeded our expenditures and have been increasing more rapidly than our expenditures over the last few years. What's that allowed us to do is save more money in fund balance. And the fund balance line is going to show you how much savings account basically the town has been able to accumulate over the last several years. In fact, the last 7 years, we've been able to put a substantial amount of money into our savings account. And then you can see for proposed 2020 that does take a dip, and that's because as we've talked through the CIP, and we're about to in a second, we're having some one-time money that we're putting aside to do some more CIP projects that we've been saving up for quite a few years. Flipping over to our State Street Aid Fund. Again, this fund handles all of our resurfacing, any guardrail projects, any kind of traffic calming that we may need to do throughout the year. All comes out of the State Street Aid Fund. This year, we anticipate revenues from the gas tax of around $850,000. You can see that has increased substantially over the last couple of years. And then we have been budgeting around $500,000 a year in resurfacing. This year, we're increasing that to $650,000 with those additional revenues. We need to be able to do and resurface more lane miles of streets than we are right now. And so we're putting a concerted effort to be able to do that in next year's budget. One other thing that we have done in the past, we are not doing this year, is that we have been able to transfer money from the general fund into State Street Aid Fund for additional funding for that for resurfacing. However, with the state increase that we've been receiving from the gas tax and also the need to do ADA funding for our future ADA implementation, we've taken that money and put it toward ADA compliance funding here, and you'll see that in just a moment as well. Our next largest fund that we have is the Capital Investment Program. These are all the large projects, anything over $25,000 that we need to do. That's more of a one-time project. This is what our rural capital needs are. You can see this year we break our CIP down into general government, engineering, and parks projects. So for this year, we've got about $1.4 million in general government projects. We've got some money to go toward completing our Smith Road Greenway connection, our Little Turkey Creek Greenway connection, community center monies to finish that out and get us in the building. And then also the Campbell Station wall and making sure we get that the facade fixed on the wall this year. The rest of the 5-year CIP on all of these categories are all projections. So each and every year we get to those points, we can always make changes to those, but it gives us a good game plan on where we need to be and how much money we need to be putting away each and every year to meet the goals that we have to fund our large projects. Our next area is our parks projects. Obviously, we've talked a lot about McPhee Park expansion, and we have put all the money in there to do the next phase of McPhee Park expansion in the FY20 budget. There's not a lot in the next couple years because I think that project is going to be taking up a lot of our time, but we do have some other projects out in the future that certainly we can continue to look at and monitor over the next couple of years. Finally, our engineering projects. We are taking a concerted effort to put more dollars away toward our stormwater improvements. It's one of our areas that certainly we want to make sure that we're getting on top of and making some repairs to things that we need to in our infrastructure. Also, Union Road improvements with our TPO funding there, as well as our system upgrade with our signals here in town. That's a 100% match, although the ADA part of it is a slight part that the town will have to pay. It's around $100,000 of that $6.7 million. And then we have Virtue Road Phase 1, and this line item has increased about $1.2 million since we last spoke at our last CIP meeting. And we have the estimate came in higher than originally anticipated. We've taken money from the land acquisition fund in order to line item to help fund that project starting next year. So if you look at the funding, you can see there we have a lot of different funding sources for all of our different projects throughout the years. The couple of main things I wanted to point out were we've got $7.25 million this year transfer from the general fund into the CIP fund to take care of all of these projects. And then in future years, we project out roughly $2 million a year from the general fund transfer into CIP. It's historically been more than that, but just conservative estimates. We try to make sure that we can do all these other projects out in the future with a relatively lower funding model if we need to. Overall, the available fund balance at the end of the FY 2020 cycle would be $942,000, and at the end of 5 years, we project right around $1.3 million still left in our CIP available fund balance. If you just look at the 2020 CIP and the snapshot, we're projecting around $21.3 million in expenditures. We should get grants of around $7.4 million. So total town funding this year will be $13.9 million for CIP. Overall, the 5-year CIP, again, it's about a $35 million CIP with $15.7 million in reimbursables or grants, with the town funding totaling around $19.5 million over the course of the next 5 years. Our next fund is our equipment replacement fund. This has all of our trucks, major equipment that we use each and every day. A lot of that's in public works, but each department has a few vehicles that are part of their department. And overall, we are increasing funding from the transfer for the general fund this year from $150,000 to $175,000. We have a 5-year plan to continue increasing that over time as equipment costs keep escalating. We need to make sure we're keeping enough money in savings to pay for those when they do wear out and need to be replaced. So overall this year we're anticipating expenditures of around $192,000 with an ending balance still in the fund of almost $900,000 in equipment replacement fund. Our next fund is a new fund this year. It's the ADA Capital Fund. I know we've talked a lot about this, but we now have an ADA plan that we have presented to the state of Tennessee, and so we need to be funding that plan and getting things accomplished to take care of some of our ADA issues in and around town. This year, we're projecting around $150,000 to be put into this ADA capital fund. And then as we have projects come up throughout the year, the first thing we're going to look at here is town hall, and then kind of work our way out from town hall. But we'll be adding to that and then coming up with projects, and anything obviously over $10,000 will be coming to the board for consideration sometime during the FY20 fiscal year. Our last fund that we're going to talk about tonight is our insurance fund. And our insurance fund is basically a closed retirement plan that is no longer for active employees, where there's no money going into it and very little money coming out of it at all, usually through the bank accounts that we have. We have a couple retirees that are in this, but ultimately we do not have to put any money in here as it's fully funded, and our actuary looks at this every single year to determine how we're doing financially in this insurance fund, and so we're in good shape going into the FY20 fiscal year. Finally, just a snapshot of where our fund balances are as of right now in May of 2019. You can see the general fund, state street aid, all of our funds, and basically how much money is in our fund balance for each of those different areas. And again, all those go toward some projects in the future. Many of those are just still unassigned fund balances that we have to spend if we need to. So with that, I'll be happy to try to answer any questions from the board. But this is the consideration on first reading of ordinance 19-22.
I'll move to approve ordinance 1922 on first reading to adopt the annual budget for the town of Farragut, Tennessee for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
I have a bunch of miscellaneous things, if I can get through them, and then I've got like 6 of them. The golf event, do we receive a wholesale beer tax from them? What are we seeing from revenue from that golf event?
I think that's really hard to estimate, frankly. We see their financial statement at the end of the year, but the golf event itself would be more of beer sales from, say, Fox Den, because they have a lot of those sales that are going on through them. And then really it's just ticket sales that they would go to reimburse them for the tournament. So
Okay.
I can't give you a great answer on what we actually get from that golf tournament.
Okay.
Can we stay on that for just a second?
Fine. Yeah.
Or,
But we don't know the exact number.
do we know if they have a date for next year?
I do not know if they have a date yet. No, sir.
And we did reduce the funding amount that we were allocating to the golf event.
Yeah, I'm looking at that now. It's-
So in previous years, we have allocated around $21,500. After receiving feedback from the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, I've proposed in your budget $15,000 for next year for the golf tournament, which certainly you can change, modify, make any changes you'd like to.
I guess the discussion I'd like to have briefly on this is, what kind of impact do you think this has from a tourism visitor standpoint? I know we've talked somewhat in the past where some of the golfers stay in homes, private homes. We're not seeing a lot of revenue generated from it, but
The caddies tend to
How
stay
important-
yeah.
how important is it to the community to have this tournament? Because I know Farragut gets recognition for it, a lot of recognition for it. They say what a great tournament it is. So I kind of hate to lose it, but at the same time, we're not getting our.
Are we getting our money out of it?
And before we lower the amount that we're giving to it, because I keep hearing from people wanting us to expand because
Yeah.
they need sponsors. We all know that.
Yeah.
But what could we do to, I don't know, from our committee and from our tourism coordinator and so on, is there anything we can do to help prop this event up to make it profitable
Or get it to-
generate some revenue for us?
Yes, or make it worth our while that
Right.
we're investing this amount of funding into it, because boy, even $15,000 with our tourism visitors board, we could do a lot with that money. So then you balance it with marketing. What does my husband always says? 50% of my marketing is effective. I just don't know which 50%. Just the name recognition, does bringing people in and having that name recognition, does that carry some weight with it? I don't have an answer. I've always struggled with this.
Well, I struggled this year because the attendance was down, in my opinion. I don't know what the numbers were. I don't have any facts or numbers to go by, but from what I saw, there were fewer people Monday at the banquet they have.
The sponsors party, right?
Sponsors party. And the day I was out at the golf course, I saw a lot fewer people. Now, it was graduation weekend.
Yeah.
Last year it was Mother's Day weekend. This year was graduation weekend. And I know that had an effect on it. So that's why I was wondering, are they coming back? And if they are coming back, have they set a date? I think that's important to know. But anyways, I hate to lose it. But again, if we're going to keep it, we got to keep funding it. We got to find a way to
See a value in it for our town. Yeah,
Right.
for
So-
us. Yeah.
what can we
And I
do?
think my question is that our responsibility or is it the tournament's responsibility
Agreed.
to share with us how they benefit the town? And I know for me personally, I believe that our money should be expended on events that will draw folks to come and stay in our hotels and eat in our restaurants. And so, and I don't think it's necessarily our job to figure that out. I think it's the events sponsors' responsibility to at least contribute in that.
Yeah, most of your events, they don't depend on a town to do their marketing,
Right.
and they should be the ones doing it, not us. And yes, they need sponsors, but there again, that's marketing's job to do that. In our case, when you've got competing events like Mother's Day and graduation, it's extremely hard to measure what effect it has monetarily to our town, because the only ones I guess could really tell you anything even close might be the restaurants.
Yeah.
I mean, and then when you've got competition as far as events going on, then who's to say it's from the golf tournament or from graduation where you've got grandparents and
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
coming in, and
Yep.
so it's tough to measure.
Well, and that's the sad part about that is if they had done it on a different weekend, you capture the graduation and then you capture the golf tournament, and I don't know. I've always struggled because there's a way, it's so difficult to figure out if we're seeing any impact from an economic standpoint.
I guess my only concern with pulling money is I don't know financially how they're doing, but I know sponsors have dropped off big time.
Yeah.
I mean, this used to be, the
Yeah.
Nike tour, and now it's not by any stretch of the
Yeah.
imagination. So I worry that one or two sponsors dropping could mean the end. So if that's what we want, that's fine, but I think we need to make sure that we know if they're providing value and bringing the tourism that we need or not.
If the board would like to, I'd be happy to reach out to the tournament director and just kind of see if he's got any tallies yet on how the event went this year or not, in order to give that to you by second reading, if that makes a difference for
Great.
your
I'd love to have
discussion.
that information.
I think one thing that also was weak this year was the advertising.
It was.
That could be based off of lack of funding. Most of the time it is. When marketing,
Yeah.
they have to
First-
cut somewhere, and
the first place
most of
that
the time that's
goes.
where it's at.
Yeah.
So, but it was weak, yeah.
All right, are we ready to move on
Go
from
ahead.
that? Building permits, do we delineate between commercial and residential permits?
What was that question? I'm sorry.
Do we delineate, for building permits, do we delineate, once we get this computer online, this system online, can we start doing that? I always like to try to figure out how much commercial activity is happening, how much funding we're getting from commercial activity. And certainly, commercial building permits adds into that. So
We can do that now. I mean, we have that information now that we know how many active permits we have for commercial versus residential, or how much revenue we're getting from commercial versus residential. We can look that up now. If you like the numbers, we can get those to you.
you've guys got your hands full right now, but maybe in the future, that could be something that's easily, with the system being computerized like that, it's just easy to pull that number
Okay.
and have that as something we understand.
Be a great workshop item to look at.
Moving on to I know we're looking at purchasing a stormwater infrastructure camera. And I am curious if what we've allocated for it is going to be sufficient to purchase what we need. I also wanted to ask, in the bigger picture, I know that 750 that we've allocated, that is supposed to, some of that is supposed to go towards an assessment of our stormwater, our current assessment. And I assume what will happen in the future is we'll prioritize our stormwater, and we'll have to go back, and the ones that kind of come at the bottom of the list, we'll be able to go back and explore ourselves with our camera. How do we see that working? Do we see having to do our current engineer, our current staff will be able to handle that? Will that become something that somebody else is going to have to do? How do we see all this working together, I guess is my question. One, do we have enough funding for a camera? And two, do we need to upgrade that? And how do we see this envision going forward?
Well, I think initially we put $50,000 in the budget for the stormwater camera system. Looking online, looking at different products, I think we think we can do it for that amount of money. We'll have to wait and see when we bid it out what that actually comes back to be. And at that point, if it comes in a little higher, then we'll have to talk to the board about if we need additional funding and you're okay with it. When it comes to the stormwater assessment, I think that's something that we've been trying to talk to some engineering firms about. I know Daryl and his staff have been working on, trying to figure out what's the next step in that assessment process. What should we be looking for when we go out for an RFQ on that type of thing? And hopefully in the next, again, couple months, we can get that out on the street, so we can have somebody start assessing our system the rest of the way.
So David, this might have transpired and I missed it, but the UT study that we were looking at, so I'm trying to piece all these things together. We have a camera, now we're looking at some other entities to do assessments, I guess that's what I heard you say. And then at one time we're waiting for UT's assessment. So can you tell me where UT assessment is, and was it valuable and helpful?
Daryl, do you have any update on the UT stormwater assessment at this point?
Well, at this time, excuse me, at this time, they have asked if it'd be okay if they extend their contract a little farther than what we had anticipated. David, I'm not sure what you're looking for on it, but I mean, they would like to complete the whole town in one contract, but
they're not being very timely.
They're not being very timely there.
And
Thank you.
very frustrated by that.
That we're trying to get accomplished right now, which is looking at 3 or 4 more neighborhoods than we did last year, along with cammering some of the lines, the pipes in there. I think we were looking at June, July timeframe in order for them to come back to the board and give an assessment and give you a report on what they have found. So I think until we can get that report, we don't want to rush out and do a lot more work or understand if we have to do any rework based on what we see there. The camera system, our guys, our own crews will be able to do that system, take it out in the field. If there's an issue, they'll be able to monitor it right away, determine what the issue is. Certainly the assessment, that's why we're talking to firms right now. Do we need to necessarily assess the entire town right off the bat? Because that's a very expensive proposition. Yeah. So I think what we were trying to do is figure out, all right, what are the most important areas for us to look at based on, single road subdivisions, or based on the number of people that live in the area in the subdivision, or just age of the system itself. So those are all the things that we're going to be looking at and talking to them about. And then over time, our guys can go out and continue on that process of looking at other parts that we have not assessed yet to make sure we cover as much as we can.
So we're basically, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I've got a question. You said something about FEMA and maybe getting some money back.
Yes, sir.
On the $300,000 that we've spent. Can we put that money immediately right back into stormwater? I mean, if we get that money back, is that where we would deposit it?
We absolutely could if the board wants to.
We should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're in a holding pattern until UT's report comes in.
Well, again, I know Daryl and his staff are talking to firms. They're trying to get the next RFQ kind of put together, and it's a slow process, but we want to make sure it gets right. But we need to wait on UT to get back to us before we jump out and do the next RFQ.
Understood.
So that contract with UT ends July or June, whenever the report is given, then the contract
Correct.
ends, and then, okay. Gotcha, thank you. Okay.
On to my next question was, Knox County has a new, they have a new piece of equipment that can assess the pavement, have you heard about that? Have you heard them talking about that?
I haven't heard them talking about it.
It's something that, have you heard them talk
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah.
It got me thinking, we have many miles of road, and I noticed how, I felt like we're not doing a lot of, I know we did Parkside the other day, last year, so we're doing Brochart, we're doing a few other, just part of Brochart. To me, and I imagine you must feel this way, we have an overwhelming mileage of roads that we have to maintain, that we have to make sure the pavement is lasting and surviving, and we're taking care of it so that we're not digging up roads and having to start from scratch. And we're putting more in as more neighborhoods come in. And I find it very unnerving when I start thinking about the responsibility we have. Are you comfortable with where we are in our,
It's hard to say. I know the cost of resurfacing has really gone up.
Yes.
The last few years. I feel like we probably need to be doing more mileage per year, more lane miles. Yes, I feel like we need to be doing more.
I think we need to start, I know we're starting to address stormwater, but this is something on the horizon that we're going to start seeing. Brochart kind of came out from nowhere, it's, half of it's deteriorated.
Right.
And you're starting to see that under, I don't know what you call it, there's a
I'm not
layer.
really sure what happened on Brochart. I've looked at that, and it's an odd thing. I'm not sure if they had a problem with the asphalt plant, but the other side was done at the
Yep.
same time, and it looks good.
So with that in and of itself, with the existence of that, makes me think, okay, yeah, this is something that I think we all need to be aware that we may not be paving enough, and we should be aware that that might be something we need to start addressing a little bit more aggressively.
I think the biggest problem, if we get behind on that curve, once you start down on the curve, it turns down steep.
Yep.
Right now, we're trying to catch roadways when we can just replace the surface. If you wait while the surface deteriorates too much, you're going to lose the binder as well, and now you've
Now
just
you're
doubled your
looking-
cost.
Yeah, you're looking at it.
Do you know
That's a
of any
project.
spots right now that have surfaces that are exposed, or they're almost at
We
the,
have quite a few streets that are on our list that we're keeping an eye on. This year each year we look at that list and try to hit the worst ones, as our budget will allow.
Are we talking about potholes? We just talking about,
The surface degrades, the surface
I know what you're
degrades,
talking about, but
But if you really have to go back out, you have to look at it, and it's Brochart, the south side, and Brochart, it's like two lanes going in and two lanes coming out, and it's, two of the lanes going in are great. One of the lanes coming out is fine. It's the second lane closest to the houses that is just really deteriorated. And for a good long length of it, from like Comb Lane all the way down to about Stall, it's really, and it.
so is this our worst road? Is this the worst of it? And if so, where is it on our list for resurfacing?
Well, it's getting resurfaced this year.
So it
It's on
is.
the- yes.
It's moved up, and it's
Yeah.
going to be taken care of.
But it wasn't on their radar, see.
Yeah,
because-
but those things happen.
Yeah.
I've got to commend the, engineering. You all have done a great job with our roads.
Well, I appreciate that.
I hear
but,
compliments all the time about how well they're,
it's a
especially
balancing
Evans
act.
Road.
Yeah.
I am so happy with Evans Road, I can't tell you. 'Cause
Unengineered road, that's what they done was quite remarkable.
I guess I'm putting that out to you all, that I think that's something that in the years going forward, I think we're going to have to be a little bit more aggressive about it than we have been. Because what Darrell says, it will bite us in the butt and not in a good way. So Moving on to the next thing, Little Turkey Creek Greenway. Is that the new Virtue Road neighborhood? Then we're coordinating with them. Jeez. Sorry.
Oh, no,
I thought I was on silence.
Uh,
Never have my phone
I think
on.
those will go off no matter what. I think those go off no matter what.
No matter
It's
what?
Amber Alert, yeah.
Okay, I just needed clarity on that. The change in funding at the TPO for Virtue Road Phase 2, I know that's not finalized with the TPO, but they are pushing right-of-way out past the 2020-23, so all they're covering is NEPA and design. So once that is approved in October, it's showing that we're going to talk about NEPA next year, and we've proposed maybe pushing that out a year and getting the funding pushed out a year. Is that correct, Darrell?
I'm okay with that, yes.
We talked about it at the CIP, at the Planning Commission level, because the TPO was decided to take right-of-way and put that out out to the next, were you aware of this, David?
I'm now aware of it.
You're now aware of it.
Thank you.
They've
I was out of town. I'm sorry. I
because
apologize.
they had they had so many projects and they could only fund so much that they took the right of way and they pushed it out to the 2024, 2027. Hopefully, I mean, we don't know about that, but hopefully. So we're proposing maybe putting the NEPA and the design phase out, pushing them out a year. Go ahead. Brian.
Well,
Sorry.
what generated that was a pullback on funding, okay? And so what they had was they had more requests than what they had money to allocate. So kind of what happened was they went through and looked at need, and I think, Darrell, I mean, in your meeting, I'm sure there was quite a bit of discussion on that in the technical meeting. We heard a little thumbnail of it in our meeting, but I think that was the big reason for there was some give and take
Yeah.
at the table, and I think that was one of the reasons you've seen. But we did stay on.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if you looked at that sheet I put in your mailbox, you seen that there was quite a few that were dropped down, and they were pushed off. So at least we did not get what I call gray area.
It's nice to have our foot in the door.
Yes.
Well, and we've got enough going on that, I mean, it doesn't have to be done, I guess, during this one because that's an out year anyway, but next year, I mean, we have Virtue Road and Union Road going on. It would be nice to kind of put a project out a little bit. Engineering's probably swamped. I can only imagine. Not just swamped, you're like, where's the light? Those were the only questions I had.
Okay, Scott?
Sure.
No questions?
Thank you.
No questions here, Mayor.
Ron?
I'm good.
Oh, wow. Okay. I have a motion with a second, and we've had ample discussion, so I'll now call for a roll call vote.
Alderman Burnett.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Alderman Pinchot.
Yes.
Alderman Povlin.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Looks like that's unanimous, so let the record show that the motion to approve ordinance 19-22 has been approved on first reading. Well, it does not look like we have anyone signed up for citizens forum, so I guess next will be the town administrator's report.
I have no report tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, David. Now, town attorney's report. Tom Hale is here. Does he have a report?
I'm sure that you all think I'm here to give a report, but I'm not. I don't have one.
Okay.
We all get nervous when you show
David was
up.
sweating.
Front, attorney's here. Uh-oh.
Definition, when I don't have a report, that's good news.
The time is approximately 8:25, and without objection, the May 23rd, 2019 Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting is now adjourned.